Defendant shall be executed in a method provided.
And if you look at the people who are sitting on death row, it's 2 black men.
Capital punishment or death penalty is notorious to be the most cruel punishment that can be sanctioned for an offense a person committed. But not only cruel, in fact, this punishment can be fatal and unjust.
It's barbaric. Absolutely barbaric.
The death penalty, being an irreversible punishment, has both its pros and cons. Good because it spares criminals no more chance to reoffend the law because they're dead, basically. Nevertheless, it is bad at the same time because a lot of people argue that this is against human rights. And it also doesn't cover the possibilities that the state execute the wrong person.
Hakim, jaksa tidak tahu keadaan yang sesungguhnya, tetapi itu berdasarkan keterangan saksi-saksi. Kan mereka itu akan dipidana itu kan berdasarkan bukti-bukti. Nah, kalau bukti-buktinya itu ada rekayasa dan segala macam, ya hakim bisa salah di dalam memutus.
There has been a lot of death row exoneration in the past 50 years. 187 innocent people were killed for the crimes that never happened.
And if you've had capital punishment, you can never put that right.
And according to an analysis by the National Academy of Sciences, 4.1% of dead people in death row was exonerated in the past 3 decades. Forensic technologies that we depend on prove to not always be accurate.
There have been 312 DNA exonerations in this country.
32% of exoneration was distributed by misleading forensic evidence. Other infamous factors that leads to death for wrongfully convicted defendants are perjury or false accusations and official misconduct.
The witnesses, yes. They said, well, we were put up to it by the local police chief. The evidence is absolutely tainted and discredited.
Studies by ACLU examine there's a correlation between race and chance the death penalty being convicted. Chances of being executed for punishment are 4 times higher if the appellant is black than if he or she is white.
How much do you think race played a role in this case?
I think it did play a role. I mean, I think that if you look at the victims, it's 3 white officers. And if you look at the people who are sitting on death row, it's 2 black men.
Nathaniel Woods was executed 2020 after a non-unanimous jury sentencing recommendation in August 2005 for the killings of 3 Alabama police officers. Woods was entangled with the crime committed by co-defendant Kerry Spencer, who shot 3 Alabama police officers in a drug house incident.
One of the shootings, yes, I am. I'm the only one that shot anybody that day.
And Nathaniel Woods is completely innocent, you say?
Absolutely, he didn't know I was going to shoot.
Knowing that Woods was innocent, he rejected the plea deal for 20 to 25 years imprisonment given by his persecutors. Because of that, the persecutors for the first time claimed that Woods was the genius behind the first-degree murder of the 3 white officers because he hated them. Spencer called Woods 100% innocent. Woods was killed because he was racially discriminated against. He was deceived by the persecutor. It doesn't need more than common sense to understand that Spencer had admitted to killing the 3 policemen and that it was not Woods. Nevertheless, the state took 15 years to kill a person for the crime he didn't commit and simply called the exonerated case an official misconduct when it was clear enough that the case was corrupted.
The court can be severely biased between races and towards those who do not have the legal capability to bring their sentence down a notch. A rich guy can legal himself out of death penalty, while a person who do not have the money do not have the privilege to do so. And sometimes even the prosecutors can build up an evil tactic to trap a person to death.
An extraordinary public apology. He wrote a headline-making letter to the editor in which he said he was not as interested in justice as I was in winning.
Hukuman mati kalau sebelumnya ada undang-undang yang lain itu, yang pertama adalah di KUHP, itu pasal 340 KUHP. Kalau orang merencanakan pembunuhan, maka dia ancaman hukumannya adalah hukuman mati. Kemudian di luar itu ada juga, kalau tidak salah, terkait dengan narkoba. Ancaman hukuman itu kan sebetulnya adalah salah satunya ya. Memang tujuannya begitu, memang untuk efek jerah. Sehingga diharapkan karena dengan hukuman mati itu mereka akan takut.
A broad death penalty argument most people agree on, but doesn't seem to be the truth, is that having the capital punishment deters crime. This statement is, in fact, partially correct. If a person is executed, then there's no need to worry about recidivism.
People who have committed the most abhorrent crimes in society go into prison and then are released from prison to go out into the community to then re-offend and do the type of crimes that they've committed again and again.
But in the other hand, statistic proves that capital punishment has done little to creating deterrence for crime rates. A study conducted by the FBI's Uniform Crime Reports comparing the murder rates in states with death penalty to states that do not in the U.S., albeit murder rates decrease over the years in both states that practice and do not. But murder rates in states that reserve capital punishment still remain constantly higher. From 1990 to 2090, the average murder rate per 100,000 in countries with death penalty is 6.46, whereas without is 5.10.
To assure this, we should look at the crime rates in countries before and after they abolished the punishment. A study done by Abdurrahman Burman Center in December 2018 reported that countries that erased their capital penalty punishment have experienced a decrease in crime rates. The study has proven that 10 from 11 countries investigated that have abolished capital punishment experienced a decline in murder rates in a decade after their last execution. One of these countries that experienced a significant decrease was Bulgaria. Murder rate per 100,000 people on first year after abolition to 11th year decreased from 0 to negative 2.4.
There is no credible evidence that the death penalty is a particular deterrent to violent crime.
Karena kejahatan yang dilakukan seseorang karena memang kelainan-kelainan kepribadian. Orang-orang yang begini mungkin ada satu kekilapan dan segala macam sehingga dia bisa melakukan tindakan itu. Kalau dibilang efektif, tidak efektif juga. Semua kembali adalah pada integritas dari penegak hukum.
There are other conditions to consider when it comes to death penalty warranty. Death penalty is expensive. The ACLU reported the cost of former President Trump's last 5 executions cost about $4.7 million, or more than $900,000 per death in early 2021, while the cost of incarceration averaged $37,449 per federal inmate in 2018.
We eliminate them through execution, we no longer have to pay the cost of incarceration. But that is a simplistic, oversimplistic view that doesn't take into account all the other costs.
The money received to undergo a death penalty comes from increasing taxes. The death penalty is far more expensive than a system utilizing life without parole sentences as an alternative punishment.
Moral itu tidak ada di hukum. Orang ini ditentukan kalau salah ditentukan berdasarkan hukum, bukan didasarkan pada moral. Apakah perlu? Seperti katakan aja, seperti tindak pidana yang terkait dengan narkoba, karena itu sudah mengancam keberlangsungan bangsa dan negara. Tentunya kalau itu dihilangkan juga mungkin masyarakat yang lain juga merasa tidak adil. Orang sudah merusak bangsa kok dibiarin.
The concept of punishment is that it is not moral, but this doesn't mean that the law is wrong and must be erased. Because the purpose of law is to uphold morality and enforce justice. If an individual kills a person, must be punished to death, then we should hold the state to the same moral standards as us. Well, I do believe that some people deserve to die. Let's say Ted Bundy, for example. But the justice system is not always accurate, and the state have already killed not only one but a lot of people for the crimes that did not even happen.
Your state has executed 234 death row inmates, more than any other governor in modern times. Have you struggled to sleep at night with the idea that any one of those might have been innocent?
No, sir, I've never struggled with that at all.
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Besides, it is not wise to risk an innocent person's life at stake. And thinking about applying death penalty on a practical basis, this might mean that the state is creating new monsters and murderers.
Who's the monster here, the criminal or the state? Well, the criminal for sure, but also the state. And so maybe you just never want the state to have that much power. And I think that's a reasonable argument.
So should or not we give the state so much power to put someone's life at stake? Therefore, why we should abolish the death penalty. LWOP, or life without parole, is another suitable punishment for capital crime, because this punishment is more cost-effective and not fatal. This is the end of the video. Thank you for listening, and as a farewell, let's watch a few heartwarming clips of exonerated inmates being finally released from their life sentences, which instead is going to be fatal if they were sanctioned the death penalty instead.
Andrew Wilson will walk out of jail a free man this afternoon after 32 years behind bars. A quiet thank you was all Andrew Leander Wilson could muster from his seat in court today after learning he would be a free man after more than 30 years of trying to prove his innocence.
Mr. Wilson is elated. He is so glad this is finally over.
He's on trial for the third time for the murder of 2 teens when he was just 16 years old. Many believe he was wrongfully convicted. Within moments, he'll find out if he goes home with his family or spends the rest of his life in prison.
In the District Court of El Paso County, Texas, 409th Judicial District, the State of Texas versus Daniel Villegas, number 94-0D09328. Verdict Form B. We, the jury, find the defendant Daniel Villegas not guilty of